Hello, YouTube. Yesterday, Corpse-a-Lot released a video entitled Care Bears and Douchebags, and I'm going to go ahead and link that in the description down below. It's about 30 minutes long, which might be longer than some of your attention spans, but I highly recommend checking it out. And I don't necessarily disagree with him on most of his points. In fact, I rather much agree with him, and talk a little bit about that here in a second. But there is one element that I do have a little bit of an issue with, and that's when it comes to risk versus reward mechanics. So there's two elements here. One of them is, of course, the classic open versus closed, or solo versus private grouped. And then there's the choices commanders make in terms of ship builds. And I'm going to address the latter first. He brought up the example of certain players who go to community goals in open just basically to grief other players who are running, say, an exploration build with minimal shields and no weapons, or a trade build with, again, minimal shields, maybe no weapons in order to increase jump range, but to haul as much cargo per run as possible. And in these scenarios, yes, the PvP pirates, quote unquote, who are acting like douchebags by just going out and basically clubbing these people for no other reason than they can, they're being douchebags. There's no denying that. And I'm going to be the first one to be right there with them and say, yes, they're being douchebags. But, those commanders chose to go out there and embrace the risk of choosing to have a couple of extra light years of jump range or being able to haul a couple 100 tons more cargo per run than to equip adequate shields and defenses in case something bad happens. And then they want to wail and gnash their teeth when they run into an elite NPC that massacres them, or a PvP player who does the same in open if they're in open. And I have very, very little sympathy for that. Friend Kratos here lost his trade conda twice yesterday to PvP in open. He was running with size 3D shields at a community goal in open. And when he told me he lost money on that community goal due to those decisions, my reaction was to shrug my shoulders and say, those were the risks that you chose to run, and it bit you in the ass. And that's the whole point. If you are willing to run with those risks, you have to be willing to run with the consequences of doing so. And that consequences are, you could lose your 3 months of exploration data to an elite NPC or player. You have to be willing to embrace those risks. If you are not, do not run with an undershielded build. Make some conscious choices here. Maybe you need to sacrifice 5 light years of jump range for the shields and weapons to be able to defend yourself long enough to escape an interdiction. I'm just saying, you made those conscious choices, you have to live with them. And I know it's not popular to do that this day and age in our society, but there you have it. You made your choices, accept your consequences. This is why I don't run. After 2.1, I no longer ran a Anaconda with anything less than a size 7 shield. Why? Because I left Space Dock in the 2.1 beta, was immediately massacred by an elite NPC. Left the Space Dock again, was immediately massacred by another elite NPC. And my decision wasn't to wail and gnash my teeth about how hard the AI had become. It was to, okay, where's the nearest station with a size 7 shield? Because I'm going to need one of those from now on. The era of the, quote, trade conda is probably a money-losing proposition at the end of the day. I don't think that under most circumstances you can make up enough credits that it's worth the risk anymore. And whenever I fly my condo, or my cutter, once I could afford a size 8 shield, I did so. And I don't take it off. Hell, most of the time I even run with a size 8 shield, so I'll bank right beside it. I will run less cargo, make less credits per mission, but I'm not willing to risk the rebuy and everything to be caught with my pants down with a 6D shield. So, again, if you're one of these commanders that are running one of these min-max builds, you have to embrace the risk that it could turn out very badly for you, regardless of what mode you play in, whether it's open or a private group or solo mode. Now, the second part of this equation is where we're going to differ probably greatly, and that's when it comes to the balance of risk versus reward between solo and private groups and open. Now, I know a lot of commanders out there fly in solo and private groups because, they'll tell you straight up, I don't want to have to deal with douchebag commander PvPers, the PvP pirates out there. I understand, I get that. But I also think that you are not embracing part of the risk and oftentimes are subjected to the same rewards as those who do elect to play in open. I don't think that that's a balance there. And there are multiple ways that this could be balanced, none of them that will probably be popular with those who choose to embrace solo and private group play for those reasons. And this is why I was glad to see the overhaul to AI in 2.1 and was a little bit disappointed when they got nerfed down a little bit. They're still more effective than they were prior to 2.1, but by this point in time, FDev has to have some statistics on what the likelihood of Commander being pulled out of Super Cruise and interdicted by one of those, quote, psychotic PvP pirate guys in open, and apply those same rates to those playing in solo or private groups with NPCs. Hey, 1 out of 20 runs, you are going to get interdicted by a wing of 3 elite FDLs, and they're going to make your day pretty miserable. Those are the same type of risks that you would run playing or going into open, or that you run into an NPC cutter that is, outfitted with the current heat cancer build and there to make your life miserable. You get interdicted, you get killed by an NPC. That, to me, would be balancing the risk. The other way to do that would be the carrot approach of offering some sort of bounty or bonus for essentially playing an open. Which of these, methods would be embraced, I don't really care. But as far as I'm concerned, Corpse-a-Lot, because I made this comment on his comment section about this, he's like, well, the logic FDev is probably using here is that the reward of playing an open is being able to be part of the community. But the problem there is I could also go to a private group that doesn't allow PvP and also still be part of a community, especially around community goals, interact with other community or other commanders. So, again, I can still, in private group, get the same rewards as, quote, playing an open without the inherent risk. And I just don't think that that's fair. That the level of risk should be equal and balanced, no matter what game mode that you choose to play in. Whether that balance is chose between the risk of running into psychotic PvPers in open or psychotic NPCs in the other game modes. I just think that there should be an equal amount of risk there for the same, if we all are going to get the same rewards, be able to affect the background simulation. Similarly, between power play, and this is one of the reasons why I ultimately dropped power play, is that there was very, very little point if, hey, me and my friends could just go undermine a system in private group, and there's, not really much that the other side can do other than run the counter mission to it. Which is fine, good and all well from game mechanics position, but, what risks were we really facing? Especially with the pre-2.1 NPC AI. It was literally, let's go and shoot fish in a barrel for a couple of hours tonight in a private group. We're not risking running into other commanders with super builds like we had. So, where's the risk? We're getting all the rewards, but not sharing in the same risks that people in open often have to face, and I think that that's where the balance should be achieved. So, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, even necessarily if you don't agree with me. Be sure to leave comments in the comments section down below. And until then, don't fly in an undershielded, unarmed ship, and see you next time.